All right. Start with a quote from the Bible. A new heart also I will give you. Ezekiel 36:26. All right, so good day. Thank you for being here. I know if you guys are watching this, thank you for keeping up and staying on top of like what's been going on with me. So let me go ahead and continue on and tell you more. So been thinking. So I want to begin by talking about hearts, which, as it happens, is a subject I have recently become something of a reluctant specialist in, because right now I am waiting for one, a literal one, right? I am, as they say, in the market for a major organ. Okay? So now, most people, when they say they need a change of heart, they mean it figuratively. A good night's sleep, a stern talking to in the bathroom mirror, me. Well, I need a surgeon, a cooler, a helicopter, and the staggering generosity of a total stranger. So, you will forgive me if I thought about this, particular subject a little more than the average person, since I've been in this hospital and in the midst of this recording, right? So that's where I'm at. Now, let me tell you about something. Let me tell you about somebody. There's a man in the Bible I've been keeping close company with lately. Not a king on a golden throne, though he had been promised exactly that. No, I have been keeping company with David back when his whole life had gone sideways. It's been going on badly, and it's really just not going very well, right? You hear the stories in some of the books in the Old Testament. Okay, so here's the situation. David has already been anointed king. The prophet has already poured the oil over his head. Heaven has signed the paperwork. He is the chosen one, marked for greatness, destined for the throne of Israel. And where do we find this future king? On a throne? In a palace? Surveying his kingdom? No. We find him in a hole in the ground. We find him in a cave, for that matter, hiding, hunted, on the run from a jealous king who wants him dead. If David had kept a resume in that season of his life, the most recent entry would have simply read, cave, currently between palaces. Okay, the palace of this cave, or the palace which is this cave, is Adullam. Okay, I think it's pronounced that way. And the scripture says it plainly and almost casually. David therefore departed thence and escaped to the cave of Adullam. One sentence, but sit with it. The man with the biggest future in the nation is living in the smallest, darkest, dampest room you can imagine. The anointed one is sleeping on rock. So, here's the thing that grabbed me by the collar, that grabbed my attention. David did not choose that cave. Nobody in the entire history of the human race has ever put extended stay in a damp cave while a king tries to murder me on their vision board. He didn't wander in. He didn't wander in. He was driven in, herded there, cornered there, by a set of circumstances entirely, completely, not only beyond his control. And I thought, well, now, if you have ever found yourself somewhere you did not choose, somewhere you would never in 1,000 years have picked for yourself, in this case, a hospital bed, a waiting list, a diagnosis that arrived like a thief and didn't bother to knock, then David is your man. Okay? Because the cave of Adullam is the patron saint of every place you did not choose. So think about that. So my cave doesn't have stone walls. Mine is the waiting. Mine is the phone that has to stay charged and stay closed day and night, because somewhere out there is a call that changes everything. and I do not get to schedule it. Mine is a strange and humbly country of the transplant list. And mine, also, I have to be honest with you, involves a hospital gown, a garment that was, apparently designed by someone who had heard a human back described to them once, and then decided that that was efficient research, and now you have what a hospital gown is about, right? So, again, it is not, and I want to be clear, where I wanted to be here in this hospital. I had plans. I had a vision board of my own. To wait indefinitely for a stranger's heart was not on it. And yet, here I am. In that cave, I did not choose. But here's where the story turns. And here's the part I most need you to hear. Because it is the part I have had to preach to myself at 2 o'clock in the morning when the monitors are beeping, their little electronic lullabies. The cave, was not David's punishment. The cave was David's formation. You cannot put an unformed man on a throne. Power would simply destroy him. So before the crown came the cave. Before the palace came the rock. The very place that looked like the end of his story turned out to be the foundation of it. He wanted the throne. God gave him the cave. And the staggering truth is that the cave was not the detour. The cave was the road. Which has forced a hard and strangely hopeful question on me. What if I have not been abandoned here? What if I have been planted here? What if this place I did not choose is precisely the place I needed to be? Not the place I wanted. Heaven knows, not the place I wanted, obviously, but the place that gets a person onto the right path, even when that person is struggling and frightened and hasn't the faintest idea what he or I is supposed to do next. Because that is the honest part, isn't it? Most of the time in the cave, you don't know what to do. There's no manual. And what I am learning slowly, stubbornly, one day at a time, is that the cave is not asking me to figure it all out. It is asking me to do something much harder and much simpler, to get quiet, to stop pounding on the walls, demanding the exit, and to listen, to watch, to pay attention to what is actually being asked of me, right here in the dark, by the God who put me here. So, do you know what David did in that cave? He didn't draw up a battle plan. He didn't escape. He prayed. Some of the most piercing prayers ever written came out of that hole in the ground. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, he wrote. And then, from the very bottom, bring my soul out of prison. He didn't get a strategy in the cave. He got a song. He didn't get all his answers. He got God. And it turns out that it is a better trade, though it is almost never feels like it all the time. So, now here's the part of David's story that gets me every single time. While he was stuck in that cave, something unexpected happened. People started showing up. And not impressive people, mind you. The Bible is almost rude about it. It says everyone who was in distress, everyone in debt, everyone discontented, they all came down to him. The walking wounded, the cornered, the folks who had run out of options everywhere else, that was the crowd that gathered in the cave. And here is the miracle. That ragtag band of misfits became David's mighty men. The most legendary warriors in the whole story, forged every one of them in the cave. So, you'll understand why, when I look around this room tonight, or this morning, I get a little choked up, because I see my own band. I see the people who drove me to appointments, who sat in the waiting rooms reading 3-year-old magazines, who prayed when I couldn't find the words, who showed up with terrible, wonderful hospital-adjacent snacks. The cave gathered a crew around me too, and I'm looking at them. Pretty much everybody that supported me, you are my mighty men, you are my mighty people. You are my Adullam crowd, and I would not trade you for a palace full of strangers. So there is a verse I cannot stop thinking about. It's the one printed at the top of this page in case you were peeking, or in case I had mentioned it before. God says about a heart, okay? A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. He goes on, he says, he will take away the heart of stone and give a heart of flesh. Now, God meant that spiritually. He was talking about the human heart, the stubborn, stony, fearful thing in the chest that needs to be made tender and alive again. But I'm sitting here, quite literally waiting for a new heart of flesh. And I have to tell you, the metaphor and the reality have started to blur together in the most beautiful way I can imagine. Because it turns out I need both, okay? The cave was never only about the organ. It was about the heart underneath the organ, okay? And the strangest thing has been happening in the waiting, the long, frightening, undignified waiting. Somewhere in there, before any surgeon has touched me, I think the old stony heart already started to crack open. I think the new one started arriving early. The cave has been giving me a new heart the whole time I have been begging it for a new heart. And I did not see it until I got quiet enough to look. And I have to say one more thing. And I want to say it carefully because this is holy ground and I will not walk across it carelessly. Somewhere out there or someday, there is a person in a family whose deepest loss is going to become my life. If I receive this heart, I will live because someone else's heart keeps its rhythm inside my chest. I do not have words large enough to hold that. There is no greater love, the old book says, than for someone to lay down their life. And I'm going to be, in some small and unrepayable way, on the receiving end of exactly that kind of love. So let me make a promise to you out loud while you are all here, here watching this, to hold me to it. If I get this heart, I intend to live like a man who was handed a gift he could never possibly earn or repay, because that is precisely what I will be. I will not waste it on small living. You don't accept a sacrifice like that and then go back to playing it safe. So here is where I have landed, friends. There is an old line, that Joseph Campbell made it famous, and I've repeated it to myself more times than I can count. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. I did not choose this cave. For a long time, I was convinced I had been abandoned in it. I am no longer convinced of that. I think I was planted here, and I am trying, some days far better than others, to do the one thing the cave actually asks of me, to stop demanding the exit and to get still enough to hear the voice that put me here and to follow it. So I am still waiting for a new heart. The call could come tonight, so genuinely keep my phone on. This could get exciting, but the strangest thing has happened while I waited in the dark. I think I already started getting one. All right? So thank you for being, the mighty people of the support that's provided me, those of you watching. Thank you for coming down into the cave with me, watching this hospital room as my cave. Whatever cave you find yourself in, and you will, all of you, find yourself in one eventually. Don't pound on the walls. Listen for the voice. Run toward the roar. And whatever you do, don't you dare run away. So, God bless every one of you now. So, I just need to make sure I have my phone on in case the call comes in.